1 gap. Under the rear roller of a treadmill, small enough to miss, big enough to pull a child under the moving belt. Break time equals 0. 6 is slash that single design choice killed a child, injured dozens, and cost Peloton $165 million. Here's the setup. The Tread Plus was Peloton's premium machine, about $4,295, sold into homes with kids and pets padding around the floor. And a treadmill is not inert furniture. It's a moving belt inches off the ground, running whether or not anyone is watching. Most people blame carelessness. That's wrong. The real reason one design gap turned into deaths, injuries, and a 9-figure loss lives in how this specific machine was built. Start with how any treadmill actually works. Follow the belt. A motor spins the roller at the front. That front roller grips a loop of belt and drives it. The top surface travels backward under your feet while you run forward in place. The belt is one continuous loop. It stretches over 2 rollers, one at the front, one at the rear, riding on a flat deck between them. Watch the rear roller closely. This is the whole story. When the top of the belt reaches the back, it wraps around the rear roller and feeds straight down. Then it runs underneath the deck, back to the front and up again. So at the rear, the belt is always diving down and tucking under the machine. Now the design choice that mattered. On a conventional treadmill, the rear sits low and flush, pressed close to the floor. The Tread Plus was different. Peloton raised the whole running surface up on a row of slats. Little rubber ribs instead of a solid belt for a smoother gym-quality feel. That elevated the rear roller off the ground. So the belt still dives down and under at the back. But now there's open air beneath it. See the problem forming. A moving surface feeding downward, with a space underneath it that a conventional treadmill never had. Hold that picture. That covers the what. Now the dangers. That open space beneath the elevated rear roller is the gap. Here's what it did. The belt at the back is a downward moving surface. Anything that touches it at the wrong spot doesn't get pushed away. It gets fed. The belt grabs it and carries it in the one direction the belt is going, down and under the machine. Picture a small object on the floor behind the treadmill. A toy. A shoe. It drifts against the moving belt near the rear. Instead of bouncing off, it's pulled snug, dragged down into the gap and wedged beneath the deck. Now picture that object is a pet nosing around, or a small child crawling behind the machine, reaching for a toy. Same mechanism. The belt catches a hand, a sleeve, a paw, and the downward pull does the rest, hauling them into that space under the running surface where the deck presses down and the belt keeps moving against them. This is entrapment. The child or pet is pinned under the machine with a powered belt still driving forward, and there is no easy way out. That's why height mattered so much. A flush low rear leaves no room to be pulled into. Raise it on slats and you've built a mouth right where the belt is diving down. The smoother ride created a trap. So how bad did it actually get? The reports answer that. Here's where it stops being a diagram. This mechanism caused real harm. A child died after being pulled under a Tread Plus. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the U.S. agency that watches for dangerous products, there were about 72 incidents tied to the machine. Not just one tragedy. 72 reports, children pulled under, pets caught, objects sucked in and mangled. On March 17, 2021, the Consumer Product Safety Commission did something unusual. It issued an urgent public warning telling people to stop using the Tread Plus if there were children at home. Regulators rarely go over a company's head like that. They did it here because they believed the risk was active and ongoing. Break time equals 0, 6 is slash, and this is the turn that made it a scandal. Peloton pushed back. According to the company's own statement at the time, then CEO John Foley called the agency's warning inaccurate and misleading, and said there was no reason to stop using the machine as directed. So now you have a public fight. A federal safety agency saying stop right now. A company saying the warning is overblown and its treadmill is safe if you follow the rules. Both sides describing the same gap, the same belt, the same reports. One question decided everything that came next. If the agency was right, resisting wasn't just a bad look. It was leaving a fatal flaw running in tens of thousands of living rooms. How long could that standoff hold? It didn't hold long. In May 2021, Peloton reversed course completely. The company issued a voluntary recall of the Tread Plus, about 125,000 units. Foley apologized publicly and said the company had been wrong to push back on the agency. Owners were offered a full refund if they returned the machine or free relocation to a room away from children, plus other remedies. Peloton also pushed out a software fix, a rear guard added later, and a passcode lock so the belt wouldn't move unless a 4-digit code was entered, an attempt to keep children from starting it. But notice what the company could not simply do. It couldn't just bolt a cheap plate over the gap and call it solved. Why? Go back to the design. The hazard wasn't one loose part. It was the whole elevated deck riding up on those slats. The height that created the gap was baked into the machine's frame and its premium ride. You can't lower the entire running surface with a bracket. A real fix meant fighting the core of the product's design, not patching an accessory. That's the difference between a recall over a faulty switch and a recall over an idea. And it's why software and refunds, not a quick retrofit, became the answer. Which brings us to the bill. Here's the full picture clicking together. Peloton disclosed a hit of about $165 million tied to the Tread Plus. That covers the direct costs of the recall itself, plus the revenue it lost when it stopped selling and delivering the machine. That's the master number from the start, and now you can see exactly where it comes from. Trace it backward. The 9-figure loss came from the recall. The recall came from the public fight and the deaths. Those came from entrapment under the machine. And the entrapment came from one thing, a single unguarded gap beneath an elevated rear roller. Break time equals 0, 6 is /1 gap at the bottom of the whole chain, scaled all the way up into a fatal safety flaw and a $165 million failure. That's the deeper lesson, and it's bigger than one treadmill. The people most exposed to this machine weren't the runners it was designed for. They were the smallest, lowest, most vulnerable people in the room. A crawling child at floor level, exactly where the belt dives down. Design for safety means asking who else is in the room, not just who's on the deck. Peloton engineered a beautiful ride for the adult standing on top. The failure was forgetting the toddler underneath. So the whole story reduces to this: one rear roller gap, one preventable design choice, and a $165 million price tag. The machine worked exactly as engineered. That was the problem. Next time you look at a finished, polished consumer product, ask where its belt dives down. Where's the gap nobody guarded, hiding in plain sight? Because the most dangerous flaws are the ones a product hides while working perfectly.